Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the Two Ewes of Two Ewes Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at twoewesfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our Two Ewes Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Hi, Kelly.
Hello, Marsha.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Pretty good, yeah.
Good.
Hanging in there.
I'm popping away from school for a little while to record today, so Marsha and I are going to have to be organized and brief, right?
Yes.
Quick and satisfying, like a single shot.
No laughing and giggling and no sidetracks, tangents and sidetracks. Yes,
I have a 4:00 meeting, so that I'm running. Luckily, I'm prepared. Yeah.
Well, and I'm in the middle of cleaning my house. It's been a while because there's been a lot going on. So I'm halfway through the vacuuming and the dusting and the cleaning. So I need to get back to it after we record.
Perfect time for a break, right? And then,
yes, yeah.
But then you have to get back to it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Well, I wanted to talk about the single shot project. The single shot along.
I need to talk about it too.
You need to talk about it.
Yes, I need to talk about it.
I need to talk about my knitting. And I really wanted to talk about some of the projects that people have been posting that I think are really cool, and also about my project. But first I want to talk about other people's projects. We even have, I just wanted to give a shout out to Chris, Boreal Chris. We even have Chris participating. She's actually defending her dissertation at the end of this month. And yet she's doing a baby item for the single shot project. So, yeah, I think that's impressive.
Yes, she deserves a shout out. That's impressive, yeah.
Very impressive. So, congratulations, Chris, and good luck on the 30th.
Well, I was looking at some of the projects that people have posted, and I'll tell you there's a couple that I really like. Mm-hmm. Well, I thought Dagger51, her hat, Katara, is darling.
Isn't that pretty? Yeah.
Very pretty, yeah.
She was working on that while we were at Lambtown, and so I got to actually see the progress of it. It's a really super interesting construction. If anyone wants to make a hat that is interesting, it's a good one.
So it looks like because it's garter stitch, right? Mm-hmm. So it looks like it's not knit in the round, it's knit
sideways,
and then sewn together somehow.
Yeah, it has short rows to kind of make it round. It's a very interesting construction. It was kind of hard for me to imagine that it was kind of starting to shape into a hat when I saw it, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
until
because the garter stitch, like there will be one row of contrasting garter stitch, but then it sort of the short rows make it. What's the word? Waves. You know, they're swirly kind of.
I was going to say wiggle. Yeah.
Wiggle. Yeah, that's a better way. Wiggle. Yeah.
The garter stitch wiggles around.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. And then she really thought it was she said she thought it was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so then some of the projects are just so funny. They just make me smile looking at them. Like Knit Admin, Mary the Bats, Boo the Bat. Very cute.
Those are cute. And so are the little cat pumpkins. I almost got out that's what Amy has posted, and I almost got out my crochet hook to make those cat pumpkins because I thought they were so darling. Mm-hmm.
Very cute. And there's another pumpkin in there, too. Joanne Carroll. She's also done a pumpkin.
Right. Oh, my God. Her other project.
I know.
Hysterical. Oh, my gosh. I can't even imagine what it would actually look like on. It's a wig. It's a purple wig made out of ribbing, and she has it displayed on a mannequin head. Mm-hmm. And then it's for a youngster So, I mean, that's going to be so funny to see.
And it's interesting because it's a wig, but I'm doing air quotes, the hairstyle, it's not really hair, is kind of like a 40s bob and it actually has sort of like some, you can see the way it's shaped. There's some curls kind of. It's very interesting.
It's got ribbing to show kind of the directionality of the hair. It's darling. I think it's really cute.
Yeah.
And it would be perfect in a lot of different settings, but I was thinking, of course, you'd have to have quite the sense of humor, but it would be it would be, for somebody who had a really, really fun sense of humor, it would be a really cute chemo cap. Mm-hmm. I mean, that would just be like, I don't know, you'd have to have the right sense of humor. I don't know if anybody would think it was funny, but I have a friend who I think it would have been perfect. If I had known, if I had known about this pattern when she was going through chemo, I definitely would have made it for her because she would have rocked that wig.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else stand out?
Oh, the cowl, the river cowl.
Yes.
Colleen, who is Tea and Knitting Too, she posted a picture of her yarn and got recommendations on, which of several patterns, and we all sort of weighed in. And it didn't seem like it was that long ago, and she's actually finished the cowl, decided it was too small, ripped it out, and finished it again. So hers was a double.
Yeah. A double single shot. Oh, no, it's a double shot, right?
Double shot.
A double single shot would be a double shot. Yeah. Anyway.
So, that, and it turned out really pretty. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a good choice of pattern for that yarn that she had. So, and I think.
And you finished your boot toppers last episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We move on to see if we got everybody that I wanted to, that I had on my list. Oh, the other one was Linda, and she posted a small stocking ornament, and those are really cute. And when I saw it, I felt a little bit of guilt because last year, so it would have been right after Christmas, not last year, but the year before. So all last year I had on my mirror a little note about how I was going to make an Advent garland for my grandniece and grandnephew. And it was going to be little stockings and little mittens and little sweaters, but the bottom of the sweater is closed up so that you could put stuff in them.
Oh, okay, like a little candy or something, yeah.
For Advent. And so I thought, I'll do that. And it sounded like a really good idea. I think the Yarniacs, Gail from the Yarniacs, was doing an Advent. They had an Advent knit-along. And I thought, I'm going to do that. That'd be fun. I can make socks. I can make stockings. I can make mittens. I can make little sweaters. And then I thought, I should make one for each of them. And then, it'd be really fun to, knit a piece of the garland that was their names. Mm-hmm. And that's not bad, right? Kai, Faye, those are short names. Mm-hmm. But then I thought about it, 24 little items, plus 3 or 4 more letters for their name, and then double that. So that's over 50 little items that I'd have to be knitting to put on this garland for them to have a Advent garland of all these little cute, darling boots or mittens and stockings and all that. And so I never started.
Yeah,
but
that's too much.
It was a good idea, though. It sounded like
it's a great idea.
It sounded like a really fun project till I started adding up how many of those things I would have to make, and then I abandoned. Well, I didn't even abandon it. I just kept looking at it on my mirror until it was past Christmas, and I finally erased it. So yeah. So anyway, when I saw that little stocking that Linda had put up, I thought, oh yeah, I should do that. Oh, I probably won't.
Yeah. Oh, never mind.
Never mind. But yeah, lots of really cool projects in the single shot knit along. It's been really fun to see them all and to see all the different patterns that people are sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I did finish mine. That's my only finished object for this podcast episode. I did finish them. They're about 12 inches of tubing, 12 to 15 inches of tubing, 2x2 rib, and I love them. I've worn them already. I haven't washed and blocked them, but I did wear them. So I'm counting them as done.
People are probably not looking at your ankles that closely to see that.
That's true. And it's funny because I did not get any compliments on them, but I usually always get compliments on my boots when I wear them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really like them. It's hard to imagine that it was actually cold enough since the last few days we've had weather in the 80s.
Oh my goodness.
I know. It's
like
our
in the
typical
50s.
October.
Yeah, we're in the 50s, and I think overnight and down, dipping into the high 40s, but it's pouring down rain today.
Oh no. We're supposed to get some rain by the end of the week. I hope we do. There's fires in Santa Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
So more fires everywhere. Ugh.
Yeah.
I guess that's happened.
I've been following the news.
Yeah. That's happened since our last show. Between the hurricanes and the fires and the
earthquake in Mexico.
Earthquake and the man-made disasters of shootings and man, it's been a difficult fall.
I said locust are next.
Really?
Pestilence. Actually, what's pestilence? Is that disease?
Would be bugs.
Like
pests.
Bugs. Okay.
I think it could be disease too.
Okay.
Cholera. I don't know. I guess we could look it up. But this is a knitting podcast.
Yes, let's not talk about that, yeah. Well, I'm hoping that everything gets contained and you get some rain down there.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the fires. As you know, we had our fires up here, so it's difficult.
Yeah. A lot of the evacuation areas are not under evacuation notices anymore, so that's good.
We promised no segues or tangents or anything, but I did watch, I don't watch football, but I did catch a little bit of the, the Washington State Cougars were playing what's the Berkeley team? Golden Bears?
The Bears, Cal Bears.
The Bears in California, and they were showing the smoke on the field was pretty intense, and people were wearing, like dust masks and stuff but they still played anyway, even in that smoke.
Wow. Yeah, the air quality was really bad. We didn't have it. We didn't have too much of it. There was one day where the smoke was really coming down our way, but for the most part, the Bay Area got the worst of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll just talk a little bit about my single shop project because I'm using our rambouillet from the shop, and I think I talked about last episode. I dyed it. Then I wanted to make a hat, and I've been looking at hat patterns, and I created a bundle too with a bunch of hat patterns and other little things I thought were, like there's a mouse and some other things I thought were cute for a single shot project. But I picked the Challenger hat by Sarah Webster, and that's what I cast on. I have to just back up and say I'm really delayed on all of this because I had a challenging week last week. Kelly, as you know, my mom was hospitalized, so and she's doing better, and she was discharged, and she's gone to a rehab facility to get stronger so she can go back to her apartment. So we're hoping that'll happen. But it meant I did have a lot of time knitting, sitting in the hospital for a week with her. But I did not get I didn't even cast on for the hat because I hadn't decided what pattern I wanted to do. So I decided last night I was going to do the Challenger hat, as I said, by Sarah Webster, and I cast on last night. And it's basically just it's going to be a very stretchy hat. It's just a 2x2 ribbing all the way, like about 7 inches, and then you start decreasing. The yarn is a little...
it's textured.
Textured, yeah, that's a better way of saying it. And I don't think it's going to work very well for this pattern. The swatch that I did in the stockinette, I really liked. So I think I'm going to go back and just find just the basic hat pattern with no patterning in it, because I think it's going to look better without, cables or lace or even that 2x2 ribbing the whole thing. Maybe just a 2x2 ribbing or 1x1 ribbing around, the head part, you know, what do you call that?
The brim?
The brim, kind of. And then just do the rest of it in stockinette. I think it's going to look better with that yarn.
Yeah.
And show off the yarn, I think, is more importantly. I think that any kind of patterning would, you sort of lose the point of the yarn, I think.
Yeah, unless you do, the swatch I did had stockinette, which I really liked, and then I put in like seed stitch. I think it was seed stitch or moss stitch in my swatch, and I liked that too. But yeah, it's a textured yarn, so you don't want something that is the kind of texture where the knitting stitches are what's going to provide your texture, because then you have the yarn providing texture, and then it doesn't mesh. Yeah.
So remind me again when this contest ends.
The end of the month.
Because I have to get it.
November 1st.
Oh, I got, how many weeks do I have? 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Approximately to get it.
Yeah, because it's when we next record.
Yeah. So I'll get it done, but I just got a little delayed, and then I was laughing because isn't the point of the single shot project is it's supposed to be really easy and quick? And I've spent hours looking at patterns and swatching and casting on and not liking it and ripping it out. So
oh my gosh. Oh well.
Anyway. Yeah, it's a fun contest, and I will get back on track here. I'll look tonight for a different pattern and start over. But I will just mention, though, there was I sometimes find when I cast on, especially for a hat, it can be kind of tight and doesn't. And so I was looking for a very stretchy cast on, and I found a YouTube video, and it's just called "Extra Stretchy Cast On Knitting" is the title of the video, and it's been posted by someone named Lorraine L. And she says in the video that she kind of developed this cast on herself. And I will try to describe it, but probably the best thing is just to go look at the video, and I'll see if I can put in the show notes a link to the video.
Okay.
But you make a slip knot, and typically when you do a cast on, then you're going to stick your needle, like you make a slip knot, put on your left needle, and then you're going to take your right needle and put it through that slip knot, right? And start casting on in some technique. This one, you don't do that. You make a slip knot, then you, on your left needle, on your right needle, you don't insert it into that slip knot, that stitch. What you do is you just set it behind the left needle. You put it behind it. No, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I take that back. You put it on front of it. So it's just laying on front of the needle next to on the right side of the stitch. Then you take your working yarn and you wrap it around the right needle that's on the front. Then you wrap it around the left needle, which is on the back, and pull it through, right? Then you take your right needle and you completely turn the needle upside down and around and stick it back onto the left needle. Now, does that make sense, Kelly?
No. No, that's something I would actually have to see.
You have to look at the video. It's very interesting. So, I don't know if I will. I did it on the hat, and I started knitting, and it's not the cast on I don't like. It's just the 2x2 ribbing for that yarn that I don't like. But anyway, it was an interesting cast on, and I will see if I can put a link in the show notes.
And it's Lorraine L.
Lorraine L.
on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to go look.
Yeah, just so Lorraine and then just the letter L. Anyway, so that's
okay.
But anyway, but should I just tell you about my projects? What's going on with me since I'm talking about my single shot project? So I did a ton of knitting on my Recoleta, the Yohi. Hohi. I have such a problem. Hohi Locatelli, the cardigan. And I finished all the waist shaping, and I have maybe about another inch to knit on the body, and then I will start the ribbing.
All right.
So I'm making really good progress. And but the only thing I said last night, I got together with a knitting group. And I think I was talking too much. And so I'm following the chart, and I have one of those, those metal boards that then you can put your chart on, and then there's magnets that hold it, and you can have another magnet so you can mark where you are. Well, I had made a mistake, and I couldn't figure out what the mistake I had made. And so what I did is I took the the magnet that was marking the row that I was on, I slid it down to the row below it to see the knit side or the right side row to see if I could figure out my mistake. I figured out my mistake, and then I kept knitting.
Oh.
And I neglected to move my magnet back up to the correct row.
Oh, no.
So now it's not so bad. I only did one row, so I just have to rip it out. But I thought I just stopped knitting last night because I realized I can't rip it out. It's. This project has been sort of a project that I have to work on my own. It's not something I can do talking to people, so it was a little foolish that I brought it.
Well, I was going to say, the last time, if I'm remembering correctly, the episode, you said that project wasn't allowed to leave the house.
Yes, I know. But I did take it to the hospital. Okay. I took it to the hospital, but, my mom was sleeping most of the time, so I just sat in the window and I got a lot done on it. But,
that's good.
Yeah, so that's coming along. I do need to rip back just the one row and get myself back on track, Well, and I have that feeling. And I have that feeling like, why bother? I'm not going to rip it out. And I'm like, no, Marsha, rip it back.
Oh my
it's
God.
One row.
You have to. It's only one row. Yeah.
Oh, I have to. But I just you ever think to yourself, maybe it won't matter.
I do that with socks. I'll do that with a sock. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I won't. It depends on the pattern and how invested I am in, what the pattern looks like and the project. But if it's just like when I made a pair of Hermione's everyday socks, and they have a stitch pattern, and I got off, and at a certain point I was like, whatever, it's a sock.
Yeah, yeah.
So
that's coming along, and then Among the Shadows, the Colleen Kennersley, the shawl I'm making out of the Stonehenge. I worked on that too at the hospital, and I finished all of the ribbing, or not ribbing, the bands of garter stitch. And the pattern calls for 5 bands of garter stitch, but because I had so much yardage, I ended up doing 10 bands of the garter stitch rows. And now I've done probably 3 inches of the ribbing that finishes the shawl, and I have about a 3-inch ball left.
Nice.
So I'm making pretty good progress. And I will say one thing, I think the pattern, actually now I don't have the pattern in front of me. I think it said when you bind off, to bind off with a larger needle, I think it said to go up maybe 2 sizes to bind off. And I found that the other shawl, it's still kind of tight.
Okay.
It's not really stretchy. So, in fact, I can't remember. What was the name of the... I don't even remember, Kelly. Once I finish something, I don't remember the name of the black and white shawl that I just finished. Twice Born.
Twice Born, okay.
That one, and I don't remember now, it was knit on 4s. And I think I used a number 9 needle to bind off. And that one is really nice. It doesn't have any of that tightness.
Okay.
So I'm going to experiment. I'm knitting this on, I think they're 8s. I'm knitting this shawl on. So I don't know how much larger I'm going to go. I mean, if the other one was knit on 4s and I went and I bound off of a 9, that's 5 sizes bigger. If I'm knitting this on 8s, that would be, what's my math? Number 13?
So that's 5 sizes bigger, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
You might not.
So
you might not need quite. You might not.
Actually, here's a question about knitting needles: do they go up proportionally larger?
I don't. I doubt it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would doubt it.
So, like a 15 is significantly larger than a 10 compared to a
1 to a 6.
Yeah.
I that's my guess.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true or not. I really don't.
Well, okay, we're not experts.
But
it's an interesting question. I don't know. Like,
if I had,
then why did they have a 10 and a 10 and a half too? That's the other thing that there's no other.
If I had my gauge, my little gauge thing here that has the millimeters on it, I could tell you a little bit better. But my guess is the answer is no. And
probably some ancient person had a stick that size that they whittled down. And then that became the 8. And then the really good whittler got the size 0. No,
Right, exactly.
Anyway, so I'm making pretty good progress on that. Now hopefully I'll finish it this week or before we record next. We'll see.
Okay.
And then the other thing I just have to talk about is my combo spin.
Yeah.
So I think the last episode I had 3 bobbins and I had plied all 3 of those and I ended up with about 600 yards of yarn.
Okay.
And now I've finished 2 more bobbins, and I'm halfway through my 3rd bobbin. And then I'll be done with all of my singles. I won't have any more fiber. So I'll ply those. So hopefully I think I'll probably finish that before we record next.
Oh, right.
So my math says I'm going to end up with about 900 yards. But I don't think that's true because I'm filling the bobbins exactly they're filling up. What am I trying to say? I'm filling the bobbins full like I did on the first 3. So I think I'm going to end up with another 600 yards.
Okay.
I can't believe that if I fill them, the first 3 I fill full and I end up with 600 yards, and I fill the next 3 full, I'll only end up with 300 yards because that's what my math said I was going to end. I took the yardage and the ounces and figured, and then weighed the rest of my fiber, and it said I kept doing the math. I did it like 5 times, and it kept saying I was going to have about 900 yards. So I just don't think that's right.
Yeah.
Is my math?
We'll know. We'll know next.
We'll know in a
weeks,
a week here. Yeah, in 2 weeks we'll know. So, but it's pretty. I love spinning that. I love the randomness of it. You have to force yourself not to say, "Oh, I just did green, so now I want to do another color." You just have to grab what you grab and spin it.
They were talking. There's about 4 women at the Anne's Web Guild who are doing combo spins, and so they were all spinning on their combo spins. Well, one of them was pulling apart her fiber, and then the other 2 or 3 of them were spinning, and they were talking about that too. About you just have to close your eyes and pick. You can't let yourself peek. And so I was just laughing because that was exactly what we were talking about. Like, no peeking.
I know, and I'm making myself too. If I can't keep myself from peeking and I grab one, I'm like, no, and I throw it back.
That is so funny.
It's funny about all the discipline that's required for all this randomness.
Right. Exactly.
Anyway.
Well, I'm anxious to see what it's going to look like and to hear how it goes when you start knitting it with it.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I think as soon as I finish spinning it, I want to cast on and knit something with it. Because honestly, I've only knit 3 things with my hand spun. And I have a lot of hand spun now. So I need to actually really just make something. So anyway, but that's it for me for projects. And how about you?
Okay. Well, at the moment, I talked about my finished project, the boot toppers or leg warmers that I love out of the Shetland yarn. So that's a finished project. I have not really made any progress on the Summer Fjord. I've maybe done a couple of rows since the last time we talked. And I think, it's the same thing that you were saying about the linen. You were talking about the linen and how it wasn't sort of inspiring you because of the time of year. And I think that's where I am now, too. I have, size 3 needles with lace weight yarn and linen. And it doesn't have that much. I don't have that much more to do. And I still have a whole skein. So I do think I'm going to put sleeves on it because I wanted to use up that yarn. And I think it will be good with sleeves. I don't think it'll be a problem to do. But I haven't made any progress really on that. So I'm going to maybe put that away for a while because it's just not the time of year. And it also cannot compete. So, lace weight yarn, size 3 needles, cannot compete with...
Oh, I know what.
bulky yarn from the Salish spinner, the Indian head spinner that I made with the CVM. And I think they're size 10 and a halves.
Oh my goodness.
This is going so fast. So fast. I got the yarn on Saturday because it was at the fair. It was at the Santa Cruz County Fair. After the Monterey County Fair, the basket of yarn went straight to the Santa Cruz County Fair, where I got an honorable mention. And it was interesting because the comments on the sheet, there were points taken off in the, for the evenness of the yarn spinning and the evenness of the plying, because it wasn't even, right? I was spinning long draw woolen. I almost said worsted, but I was spinning long draw woolen. So, you're just pulling your hand back and depending on how the yarn pulls into the spinner, it would be, it wasn't super thick and thin, but it wasn't totally even either. And it was a carded prep, so that's another thing. It doesn't come out completely even when you're using a carded prep. And so there were thick and thin spots, and there were some places, because it was 5 skeins of yarn, my earlier skeins of yarn had places where it wasn't quite plied tightly enough. Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, there were points taken off for those things in this category, which I understand. Even though, this wasn't the type of yarn that was made to be completely consistent in thickness or completely consistent. And not, it's not. It's bulky and it's a little bit inconsistent. Not super thick and thin, not like art yarn, but not super consistent either, like a worsted spin. Anyway, so points were taken off on that. But then, and this is the thing that I try to tell everyone who spins, the comment on the bottom was, great swatch. The knitting obscures, I forget how it was worded, but basically the knitting obscures the faults. And so anyway, I am super happy with how it's coming out. I have knit the ribbing. I have knit into the body up about, so I'm maybe a total of 8 inches along. And then faster than I thought, I got to the part where I need to put the white waves into the gray band, and I didn't have any white yarn. Like, why did I not spin the white yarn while it was away at the fair?
Oh, good point.
I mean, at our county fair, I spun more of the gray that I knew I was going to need, and more of the CVM, the tan CVM, not because I thought I needed it, but just in case, So I did that. But during the whole time, the month that it's been at the Santa Cruz County Fair, I did nothing to prepare for the white yarn that I was going to need. So
how much of the white yarn do you need to spin?
I don't remember how many yards it is. It's not a lot because it's not as much as the gray. The tan is the main color. The gray has more. There's more of the gray, and then within the gray stripes is a little wave motif, like the froth of the waves, and then on the orcas is a little bit of white. So most of the color work is the gray. But I have spun some, so I had to wash fleece. I mean, really, why didn't I start this? Well, my other yarn was at the fair. So I washed fleece last weekend. Or maybe I washed fleece last weekend, and then I carded and spun. I've spun one skein, so that's not going to get me very far. One small skein of bulky yarn, but I have more carded, and so if I spin a little bit more tonight, I think I'll be ready to. It's not even dry. The yarn I plied last night is not even dry, so it's not like I can knit on the sweater tonight. So I'll spin some more tonight and card some more tonight, and then I'll be ready to work on the sweater. But it's going to go really super fast, I think. It's going to slow down when I hit the color work, but even so.
Yeah, but still 10 and a half.
Yeah. bulky yarn and 10.5, and it's so dense. My sweater is going to stand up by itself. So that's quite a contrast from lace weight linen. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that, I can tell you for sure, the lace weight linen is not going to compete with this project. Mm-hmm. Because I'm knitting with hand spun too, and that's just fun. There's something really great about knitting with hand spun. So
I don't know, because I've only done 3 and they were so long ago. I need to. Now, do you have your sweater in the...
I know. I haven't made a project page yet. I have a project page for the yarn, but I don't have a project page for the sweater yet. So I have to get on the ball and get some pictures up. And yeah,
I want to see it.
So, and there are a couple of other people who are making this sweater that I've been corresponding with on Ravelry, and people who are interested in the Cowichan story.
So I have a question about that, about the yarn that you're spinning, because you're spinning it on your Salish spinner. Is that what you call it? I like the little Herbie that you and I both have. I couldn't spin that on, right? It has to be that.
I think you probably could. It would be...
I could just get about 5 yards on a bobbin.
Yeah, the plying
10 yards
would be tricky because you wouldn't be able to get very much on a bobbin. The orifice is big enough. It's the yarn is not so big that it wouldn't go through the orifice.
It's just the size of the bobbin.
Yeah, the size of the bobbin would make it sort of annoying.
Yeah. You'd have a lot of ends to weave in, or a lot of spit splicing. Mm-hmm.
Although I was winding from one of the bobbins that I plied, because the Salish spinner has very, very big bobbin, one very big bobbin. And so I was winding off onto the ball winder from the skein, and I couldn't get it to fit. I mean, the ball was too big for the ball winder. I had to take it off the ball winder and then finish winding it by hand because it was just too much yarn in the skein to fit on the size of ball winder that I have. So, but I'm just loving this yarn. I'm loving this knitting. I like the spinning. This white yarn that I'm making, I'm using the same fleece that the yarn that we had made. That's the Border Leicester Corriedale Cross. And so, and that's the finest yarn that we have in the shop, I think. One of the 2 fine yarns that's in the, I think they're maybe like sport weight. The Merino and the Corriedale Border Leicester are probably around close to sport weight. But as a bulky yarn, it's really nice. It's kind of coarse as a thinner yarn. Coarse is not really the right word, but it's a sturdy yarn. As a thinner yarn, it's real sturdy and kind of a hard hand to it. But in the bulky yarn, it has really a soft hand. I mean, it's not soft like it won't be prickly next to your skin. It still will be prickly next to your skin because it's a long wool, but it's real puffy. So, and it's going to be fun to knit with. And very shiny. You can really see the luster of the long wool.
I'm looking. I'm quiet because I'm looking up Orca Run. So, are you going to put a zipper in? Okay.
Yeah, I want a zipper. I debated about whether I wanted to do it as in the round and steek it, but the pattern talks about the tradition of it being knit flat, and then I'm reading the book Working with Wool by Sylvia Olson about the sweaters and the people, and she said that some of them were knit in the round, some of them were knit flat, so it varied. What was the tradition varied. So I thought, I'm just going to follow the directions in the pattern. I'm going to do it to do the pattern as written. So that's what I decided to do. So I'm working it flat, and then I'm going to put in a zipper. Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm really excited. Exploration Sandra is one of our listeners who's also making one. Polity is also doing one of the Orca Run sweaters. She hasn't started yet, but she does have her yarn. So I'm really excited to see the different sweaters that people I know are making. There's only 8 projects of this sweater on the project pages so far. Mine makes 9. And then I'm looking forward to seeing some of the others pop up.
Yeah, very cool. And anything else?
Well, the only last thing is that I do have a pair of socks that I bought some yarn from Duran Dye Works at Lambtown. And it just was one of those colors that as soon as I looked at it, I had this like sense memory, really good sense memory. But I couldn't, it's like, okay, that is so familiar and pleasant, but I can't think of what it reminds me of. But I bought it. So it's pink and yellow. And like the pink is bright pink and light pink. So like highlighter pink in spots and mostly a lighter pink. And then yellow again is little small spots of it are really bright yellow, but mostly it's a paler yellow. And then when the pink and the yellow merge together, there's a little bit of orange. But the color reads mostly pink when you look at it. But then it has brown, like chocolate brown. And I just like, oh, I want this. So I bought it and I cast on immediately. Almost immediately I cast on. Not right at Lambtown, but when I got home. And as I was knitting it and talking with Robert and Aunt Betty about it, they reminded me of those candies. You know those Brock's candies that were brown and pink and white?
Oh, right.
And the white part was like coconutty, sort of chewy. It came in bins in the grocery store. I think that's what the memory was. When I saw this, I think that's what it triggered in my mind. Now, those candies don't have any yellow, and they weren't super bright pink. But I think it's the pink and brown that is reminding me of that candy. So, so I'm knitting a pair of socks, and I'm using the pattern, the slip and swirl pattern by Christy of Chris Loves Wool. And it's coming out really cool. The slip stitches on this are and the brown are causing sort of an Aztec design to come out in the.
Oh, interesting.
So I think I'm going to call them Aztec cupcakes because they remind me. They also remind me of chocolate cupcakes with pink frosting, like really bright, lively frosting on a chocolate cupcake. So, but the pattern is really sort of, it just looks Aztec to me. So I'll put a picture of them in the show notes. I don't have a project page for these either, so you can't really see what they look like. But the way the colors are being broken up by the slip stitches is just really interesting on these. So yeah, been working on my Aztec cupcake socks.
They sound delicious.
Yeah. They make me sort of hungry. So the other thing that happened since our last episode, Marsha, is that I went to Lambtown.
Yes.
Excited
fun.
To hear about them. So fun.
So, well, I saw your pictures. I think Robert had posted a video of some sheep being sheared.
Oh, yeah. He, I didn't see that, but he left me to my own devices while we were there because I was watching. For most of Saturday, I was at the fleece, not the sheep judging, the fleece judging. And it was Martin Daly, and I think I talked about him before. He was at Black Sheep Gathering a couple of years ago, and he has Gotlands, and he was a University of California Davis professor, and he's a teacher. This guy is a teacher. You know, he can't talk about the fleece without teaching you something, and so we got to hear all about the follicles and the follicle ratio, the primary and secondary follicles and the ratio and what that does and sheep nutrition. And he was just super informative and I really enjoyed the judging. It meant, because he was going into such great detail about everything, the judging did take a really long time. It seemed to me, or it started late too, is the other thing. Last year, the same thing happened. It started late. So the judging said it was going to start at 9, and it was probably after 10 by the time it actually did start. But I got to sit and visit with Mary, knit admin, and met some of her friends from the guild that she was in, and saw a few people before the judging started. Mostly, the usual suspects from the Bay Area, the Knockers people, Tracy, Marianne, Dagmar. But anyway, when the judging started, it was really good, but it went all the way past 2:00. And so on Saturday, that was mostly what I did. So if you weren't at the judging, I didn't see you. Gail and Charlene were there from the Yarniacs. They sat at the judging and watched for a little while, which was fun because they had questions, and so it's always fun to have somebody who hasn't ever seen it. So they were interested in how it all worked, and there were some nice fleeces. I ended up not getting any of the fleeces because I have enough in my garage at the moment. I didn't see anything I had to have. I was hoping to see something unusual, but I didn't really see anything unusual. But there were some nice ones. And then after that, I had a lamb sandwich, which of course is really good. I like lamb.
Oh, and how was that prepared?
It was just like roasted and sliced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was really good. It was on a hamburger bun with like a garlicky sauce, probably like an aioli. Garlic aioli. It was good. It's very good. So it's quite a warm day, but inside of the barn where we were for the fleece judging was actually cold. By the time I got out, it's like, oh, I need to thaw out. I've been sitting in this cold building for all morning. So, but yeah, it was actually really a lot of fun. And then we went out, Robert and I went out in the afternoon to look at the animals in the barn. So we saw the sheep in the barn, and Janice was there. She came out and looked at the sheep with us. Yeah. So yeah, lots of familiar faces.
Our tribe down there.
Yeah. A lot of people who go to Knockers also go to Lambtown. I was sad that I didn't get a chance to see Marcy and Kim from the Destined to Knit podcast. Yeah, they were there, but I think they were meeting at 12 on Saturday, and I was in the middle of the judging. I did get to see two of the not the usual suspects. I met a listener, Teresa, who is Knitting Companion, and so I met her. That was fun. She was looking at me, and she went, "Two Ewes?" I'm like, yeah. So that was fun. And then Sequoia Shelley, who we met at the Black Sheep Gathering a couple of years ago, she was there, and I got a chance to talk to her a little bit while we were watching the sheep to shawl competition. So have you ever watched a sheep to shawl?
No, I haven't.
I have watched a couple of them, and I was there right at the beginning of this one, right before it started, and then right when it started. And then I also was there at the end when they were madly finishing up before the timer went off. And I have to say, I don't think that's for me. It looked super stressful. It just looked really stressful. And maybe once you get going, like maybe most of the day is not stressful, but that right before you get started and right before you have to stop, maybe those are just more stressful time periods.
So do they actually take the raw fleece off the sheep, wash it, card it, dye it, all of that?
They did not actually shear the sheep.
Okay.
It looked like they were carding. It looked like they had washed fleece, and they were carding the washed fleece. So they started by carding and then spinning, and weaving. And so the weavers, I took a lot of pictures of the weaving so I can use it in the handouts for the weave along, or maybe publish it and post it in the Ravelry thread too. Lots of different examples of the way the loom was set up, different ways of, one of them had striped warp, one of them had mostly solid warp, and then you could really see the warp at the beginning and how it was arranged. Some of them had wound the warp on the back beam using paper, which is what I do. So that paper separates the layers of threads so they don't fall into each other. And then there were a couple of looms that were using sticks instead of paper to keep the layers of thread separated. So I took pictures of that because I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so the looms were all warped and ready to weave, so they didn't have to do that. And the sheep was already sheared and the wool was already washed, but it wasn't carded. And so they started off the day by picking. They had one person picking the wool apart to fluff it up, and then another person carding. And then as soon as that carded bat came off the drum carder, it went right to a spinner, and the spinner started spinning. And as soon as the spinning was done, somebody else started plying. And as soon as the plying was done, it's off to the weaver to get weaving. It was very interesting, but I think very stressful.
Oh, well, and then what about dyeing, though?
It was already, the warp was already dyed or not, depending on how they did. But the weft was natural colored.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they didn't do any of that. So anyway, it was very interesting. And then the judging actually came down to, it was Stephanie Gustad, and she, when I joined up to the judging, I didn't see all of it. She was between two, she had narrowed it down to 2 shawls. And the way she decided between the 2 shawls was one of them had been spun finer, and so there was like more spinning and more weaving in the project. So, more yardage because it had been spun finer. And I'll tell you these teams, because I said, oh, wow, I was asking questions. One of the teams, they actually have practices.
Well, I was wondering if they have to train for this.
Yeah, she said they practice like once a month. And I'm like, well, what do you do when you practice? And she said, well, like try to spin all the same weight. That kind of thing. Speed carding? I don't know. Speed weaving.
Well, or just organize a plan.
Right.
You probably have to finalize the design. You can't come up with a design there. You actually have to have the design figured out and who's going to be doing what, and you have to get a schedule because you have to have people. You have to have those wheels going all day, right? So you can't.
Yeah. It was, and you have to figure out like what you can do so that you don't have lost time while you're waiting for something else. Yeah, it is very interesting. The Monterey County Fair, they do have a weaving, but it's not a competition. It's just a weaving that happens all throughout the fair. Yeah, which is much more relaxing. But it is a fun thing for spectators to be able to see all these different looms and all these different spinning wheels. One of the women there had the same wheel as me, the Wyatt wheel, which I was surprised that she was able to transport it because my wheel is not that transportable. It's big and heavy, and so it doesn't come apart or fold down or sit in the front seat like my Herbie. But it spins faster. Yeah, which is the
that's another thing I didn't even think about too. Like you want to bring a wheel that spins fast,
right? So yeah, Lambtown was really fun. I got to see a lot of people, a lot of good fibery friends, and eat lamb and touch fleece and all that good stuff. And then Sunday morning we woke up and it was super, super windy, and that was when the fires had started. So I can see from, I mean, having been in that wind was so strong. I know exactly how all those fires got out of control. Because I mean, it was howling outside the hotel room. And, you know, when you close your hotel room window, you don't have a lot of outside sound. But we could hear the wind howling on Saturday night and early Sunday morning. So we went back over there and we did another couple of rounds of all the different exhibits and shops and things. And, I know what I wanted to mention. I got a prize, one of the prizes for the Weave Along. Actually, I got 2 prizes. One of the prizes I got, I think I'll use it for the single shot. One of the prizes I got was a skein of worsted weight yarn it's round belay, and it's from Lonnie's Lana. And she is, I've mentioned her several times, she is one of the climate beneficial wool ranches that's doing the composting and the other practices that actually sequester carbon. And so her shop was there, and I know I've talked about her several times, so I thought, I'll get a skein of her yarn to give out as a prize. And it's naturally dyed, and the one that I got was dyed with sunflower seeds. So
what color is it?
It's a pale green. It's a pretty green.
Okay.
It's sort of a pale, dusty green color. So, nice. And then the other thing I was really excited about, I got one for me too, is a little loom made of little nails around an outside edge, and then you wind the warp on the nails, and then you weave back and forth. And the shape I got was the shape of a heart. I thought it was darling. So I bought 2 of them, one for me and one for a prize for the Weave Along. So the single shot project will have the 1 skein of worsted, and the Weave Along at the end of it, or maybe somewhere along the way, I don't know, we'll have a little tiny heart loom as a prize. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like it was a fun weekend.
It was a fun weekend. Robert spent a good portion of Saturday by himself, and I had his book in my bag, but I don't think he minded.
Well, there was probably lots to look at. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask. Did they have the sheep herding contest?
They did. Yeah, I didn't get to see that. I didn't see the sheepdogs. Last year we watched the sheepdogs on Sunday, and this year when we went on Sunday, I didn't see any sheepdogs at the time that we were there. So,
because wasn't it last year? It was very, very hot, and so they actually stopped the competition because they were worried about the dogs.
Oh no! Last year, what happened was it wasn't super hot. It was also super windy, and that was making the sheep really skittish. And so
I knew there was something.
Yeah,
they were having last year.
The dogs were having a lot of trouble qualifying between the high wind and the small area that they were in. It was putting a lot of pressure on the sheep, and they weren't being very cooperative. And this year it was being held in a different location than it was last year. So I think they had a little bit more room, but I didn't get a chance to see it. And they had the same wind. But it wasn't the same. Last year it was windy, and I want to say like a storm coming. And this year it was just windy. So I don't know if that kind of wind bothered them, but the impending storm was something that was causing the sheep to be real skittish last year.
Okay.
So that was my week, and I don't have anything else.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything else either.
Okay. Well, and we're coming up about time.
Okay. Yes, I'm going to, just back to knitting. Actually, when we finish, I'm going to go finish vacuuming and dusting.
Oh, that sounds so fun.
Woohoo! And then, so then I can have my evening to spin.
There you go. Well, that'll be a good reward. Finish your combo spinning. Yeah, I'm back to work and run a meeting until 5, and then I'll come home and I'll probably spin too, because I have more white yarn to make.
Yes. This is another reason why maybe you shouldn't participate in a sheep to shawl, not organized enough. Right? You should have been working on that.
Exactly. Yes, I had a month that I could have been spinning this yarn. What's my problem?
Actually, I would not want to be the one organizing it, and I don't think I don't know that I want to do the spinning. I mean, I like the spinning, but the idea that we all have to spin the same way, it might be challenging for me because I don't have the years that you have of experience. But I could fluff the fiber. I could do that. That might be kind of fun to participate in something like that.
First class fiber fluffer.
Anyway.
All right.
Okay. All righty, Kelly. Well, good luck spinning. Have fun tonight.
Thank you. You too.
I'll think of you as I'm spinning.
All right.
All righty. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2ewesfiberadventures.com. We have links for iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, and others.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2 Ewes
doing our part for World Fleece.